Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how we can create finished plans within Revit and also taking a look at the different type of schedules that we're going to need to make for our documentation. So if we go back to the example CD set that I showed in the first lecture for this module, we can see here on page A112 that we have some finished plans and also a finished schedule. So if I zoom in here a little bit closer, you can kind of understand the way that this is set up. So down here, we have a little bit of a legend. So we have this sort of symbol or structuring method for the way that we identify the materials in the room. So what we did is we use this tagging system and basically just put text notes in every single one of the spaces and identified the different finishes within that space. So for example, this one would have flooring number 2, paint number 1, trim number 2, and then base number 1. And then we just went around and copied that to every single space and then changed those different values based on the finishes that we wanted in those rooms. Now, this isn't the best way to do it, so I'm going to show you a little bit better of a way that we can do it that will hopefully make things a little bit easier, because this is a very manual process. It involves creating these text notes that aren't very intelligent and they aren't linked to anything, and then just copying those around to every single room, which is not really the best use of Revit. You know, Revit is a BIM platform, so it's intelligent, and we can do things a little bit easier or more intuitively than having to copy these random text notes around like we would in AutoCAD. All right, so that sort of gives you an idea of the things that we'll be tagging though. We'll be tagging floor finishes, then wall finishes, trim finishes, and then our wall base. And we might also do like ceiling finishes as well. And then over here, so all of those tags or mark values is what they're called. So PT2, that would be an example of a mark value. Those mark values are tied over to a finish schedule. So if I zoom in on this finish schedule, this is what's going to actually tell you what that mark value is indicating, right? We can see things like the manufacturer. We can see things like the type of finish it is. So is it a paint? Is it a carpet? Is it a vinyl or an LVT? What's the color of it? What's the actual name of the product? And then additional notes, whatever we need to put in for there. So all of that has to be indicated within your drawing set so that somebody reading this knows what they're going to actually be installing in the space. All right, so that's kind of what the idea of this video is. So I'm going to hop over into Revit now and make sure that you're following along with me, because I'm going to want you to submit the file that we create in this exercise. So I'm going to start with the template file that I created in my prior video. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to New, use my interiors template, and then click on OK to create a new project. I'm going to let that load. All right, so here we are in our template file, our brand new project. And what I'm going to do is just create a simple space. So we'll use some walls. I'm going to make a 20 by 20 space. So we'll just go here until we see 20 by 20 like that. And then I might just center this up a little bit. And then I'm going to create a couple more walls like this so that we get 4 rooms. All right. So now that we have this, let's say that this is our final project and we want to start indicating the different finishes that go into these rooms. All right. Let me add in a couple doors so it looks like more like an actual space. All right, there we go. So I'm going to start by adding in finishes for the actual flooring. So in my example prior, the CD set here, we were only indicating the flooring finish based on these simple tags. But another way to do it is through the use of hatches and a legend, so that somebody could just look at a hatch pattern and quickly identify the flooring material on the plan based on that hatch pattern. All right, so that's what we're going to learn how to do. And we're going to utilize the room tool within Revit to do that. All right, so if I go to the room tool and assign rooms to all of these spaces. So we're just going to click on all these and put a room within them. Just like that. And I'm actually going to turn my scale up a little bit. So I'm going to go to my view template and adjust my scale so that the text appears a little bit smaller. So we'll go to a 1/4 inch scale. Right there. All right, so that looks a little bit better. So now we've done that, we can use this room boundary or this room object, and we can use that to assign finish properties to the actual space, sort of like we were indicating on the CD set. So if I go over here to the left, when I click on that room object, you can see we have all of these different categories here for finishes. So we have floor finish, wall finish, ceiling finish, base finish. All right. And we can use those. All right. So what we're going to do is create a thing called a color scheme. So a color scheme can be used for a bunch of different applications. The most widely used application for a color scheme is tying different colors to individual rooms and then having a legend off the side that indicates the room's use. So for example, if you want to create sort of a presentation and you wanted somebody to see all of the back of house spaces within the model, you know, all those are indicated in red. And then you want people to see the public spaces, those are indicated in yellow, something like that. That's typically you'd use a color scheme for, but we can use that to apply hatch patterns to the floor plan to quickly identify flooring finishes, which is really cool. So we're going to go and click on color scheme, and then we're going to set our category here to rooms. So it's going to be basing this off of that actual room object that we placed. All right, so now that we have room set, we're going to start with one of these default ones that are built in. So you can see they have name and they have department here. So I'm going to start with department here, and I'm going to duplicate this. All right, and I'm going to call this flooring finishes. All right, so there's my new flooring finishes. So now what I have to do is over here on this right side, first we need to give this a title. So we're going to call the title of this flooring finishes. All right. And then we'll give the color floor finish. And then we're going to add in some values. So these values that we're going to be adding in here are going to be those tag IDs, okay? So if I show you this again, so you can see, for example, FL1, that would be an example of one. That just stands for flooring 1, but more commonly we would use other types of tags. So like CPT1, for example, for carpet 1, or LVT1 for luxury vinyl tile 1, or T1 for tile 1, all right? So let's do 2 carpets and 2 luxury vinyl tiles. So I'm going to call this one CPT-1. All right. Then I'm going to add another one, CPT-2. Okay. And then another one, LVT-1. And then LVT-2. So there's our 4 different flooring types for each of our rooms. So if you look over here, we have a randomly generated color for these, But since this is going to be on a CD set and we're not going to be showing color on a CD set, we need to set these to be hatch patterns, right? Because those do not rely on color. So we're going to go here to color. And we're going to set all of these just to be black. All right, so then what we need to do is apply a fill pattern. So right now it's set to solid fill, but we want to set this to just be sort of a random fill pattern that's in here. So it doesn't really matter too much. It doesn't really have to match the actual material. It just has to be something that looks unique, right? We're just tying a random hatch pattern to a material. So crosshatch, for example, could be one. The next one, let's see, we'll just do diagonal. Then we can do earth maybe. And then we can do horizontal lines. Well, maybe I'll switch the earth to something else. All right, let's do that aluminum one. So we have horizontal lines, aluminum, diagonal down, and then crosshatch. So we have 4 unique patterns, all right? So now we can just click apply and then okay. So nothing has happened yet because we haven't actually assigned those values to the spaces. All right, so what we want to do is click on the individual rooms and then come over here on the left, and we want to, well, first I'm going to switch over to my finish plan because that's what that's going to be. This is going to be our finish plan. And then we're going to find those rooms, and then we're going to go to our floor finish, and we're going to designate our floor finishes here. So there you go. If I click that and click apply, it's assign the floor finish. Still isn't showing anything here though. That's because we have to actually apply our color scheme. So without clicking anything, you want to come over here on the left, go to color scheme, click where it says none, and then we're going to switch to rooms, and then we're going to set that to flooring finishes and click apply. Once you do that, you can see now that hatch pattern is appearing within the space. So I'm going to do the same thing for all these other rooms. So let's see, we did CPT1 for that one. For this one, I'm going to do CPT2. Then we'll go and do LVT1. And then LVT2. All right, so now you can see we have all of our different hatch patterns based on the room showing up correctly. Okay, and then if we were to add additional rooms, for example, to this, so if I create a new room, right? Oh. We could simply just change the finish of that one. And you can see now it's easy to tell which ones are the same finish, right? Because we can just look at that hatch pattern and see that is the same. So let me adjust my scale really quick. Go 1/4 inch. There we go. So there. So now you can just see the different flooring materials based on a hatch pattern. So this is cool, but then we're also going to need a way to tell somebody what those flooring materials are, because it doesn't do us really much good if we're just seeing these hatch patterns without, okay, what does the crosshatch mean? I don't know what that means. So we're going to have to add in a legend to this. So the way to do that is to go here under annotate, and then on the right you can see we have this color fill legend. So I'm going to click on that, And then that's going to allow me to just place that into my viewport. All right. And what's really cool is it automatically creates all of my swatches and all of my names for me. So now let's say we were to get rid of one of these materials. So let's go here to this room and let's change this one to be LVT2. When I do that, the legend is going to update and it's going to see that LVT1 is no longer used, and it's going to remove that from the legend for us, which is really cool. So we'll bring that back. And let me just move this off to the side a little bit more. And you can even customize this to where if you don't want these to be totally vertical like that, we can expand this. And we can actually move these to be right beside each other like that, which is really cool. All right, so if I were to go to my finished plan sheet now and take a look at this, and I'm actually going to move this now to get this centered up into my sheet a little bit better. So let me crop this down. So we'll turn on our crop region, and we're going to click on the view then, and we're going to double click and then edit crop, and I'm going to crop this down right around my view here. Just like that. Now I'm going to click green check mark and I'm going to hide my crop region. Double click back out. So now we're back on the sheet. Then I'm going to move my title underneath of my view. All right, so there is my view. Now, as you can see, the actual legend is within the viewport and it's not actually on the sheet. So it's tied to the view. But let's say we wanted to separate those so that that could be anywhere on this sheet instead of having to move around with the drawing, right? I want to isolate this to make it its own thing. All right, so what I'm going to do to make that work is I'm going to go back to my finished floor plan. So here's my level 1 finished floor plan view. I'm going to duplicate that. So we'll go here to duplicate with detailing. And now that I've done that, I'm going to crop this view, turn on my crop region, and I'm going to pull my crop region in just around this floor finishes section. Now when I do that, and I crop out the actual space, you can see that this knows I did that and it's not seeing anything, and it does that. All right, it doesn't show me any of my hatches. So what I need to do is click off of that, select this legend, go to edit type, and then I need to toggle a setting here. So right here where it says values displayed by view, I want to change that to all. Then I'll click OK, and you can see it comes back and it still shows me what is on the plan that's over here that's being cropped out. So now I can hide my crop region, and I'm going to rename this to be level 1 floor finish legend. Okay. So then I'm going to hop over back to my sheet, and I'm going to adjust my level 1 finish plan view. So again, we'll double click in here, then we'll go to crop region visible, and we'll crop out the legend like that. And then we will hide the crop region. Make sure I'm not sure why it's not cropping that out. Oh, okay. Let me delete this. So we'll just delete that since we duplicated it. We can just get rid of that. We don't really need it anymore. Now I should be able to drag my floor finish legend onto here. All right, so there we go. So now we have our level 1 finish plan, and then we have our floor finish legend over here. But this is set up so that it has a view title. So obviously we want to get rid of that. So if I click on this viewport and go to edit type, I can duplicate this and I can make a new version that's viewport no title. All right. Then I can go here where it says view title and I can go to none and just turn off this extension line and turn off show title and click OK. Then it will go ahead and just hide all that. So now I have these separate and I can put this over here off to the left wherever I want that to go. So that's pretty cool. All right. Then let me just really quickly add my room names back in, my room tags. So if I double click within here, I'm going to go to annotate and then we're going to go to room tag and I can just go around and I can retag all these rooms. Or another thing you could do is go to annotate and then you can go to tag by category, or actually tag all, and then we're going to find room tags right there and we're going to check that and click apply, and that's going to do that for me automatically. Cool. All right, so the next thing, so we have our floor finish legend, which is nice, but the other thing that we'd want to do is actually create a schedule, right, like this, that we can use to indicate to somebody what all the different finishes within the project are. All right, and give them all this information. So we're going to do a very basic schedule. All right. All right, so schedules are a little bit tricky. They're not the most intuitive thing in the world, but hopefully I will explain this clearly enough so that you sort of get the general process. So if we want to create a schedule for the materials that we're going to apply in the project, we're going to have to use a combination of the schedule tool and also the materials editor, all right? Because the two of them are actually going to be linked together. So if I go to manage and then materials here to bring up the materials editor, what I want to do is add in materials. So like our CBT1, CBT2, LVT1, LVT2, and even paints, things like that. All of those, we're going to add those in here, right? And you might have those already built into your project. It just depends. But we're just going to do a couple simple ones, and we're not going to put much into them, just so you get the general idea of the workflow that we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to create just a few materials. So create new material, and I'm not going to be adding in like textures or anything like that. Literally, it's just for scheduling purposes. So it starts out as a default new material. I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to rename this. So you would want to name these something a little bit better than I'm doing, probably the actual product name. For example, like Sherwin-Williams Creamy or something like that, whatever the name of the paint is. I'm going to make a carpet. So I'm just going to call this one CPT1. I'm just going to use my tags that I've already created so that it's just a little bit easier to follow. So this is going to be CPT1. All right. Then we're going to do another one, and this is going to be CPT2. Then we're going to do LVT 1 and 2. All right, so we have 4 of those. Now I'm going to do a couple of paints. So we'll do PT1, create new, and then rename. And we're going to do PT2. Okay. So now the way that we control this is through the identity tab of the material. So this is probably a tab that you've not used too much in the past, right? Most of what we've been doing up until this point has been focused on the appearance of the material for rendering. But whenever you're dealing with construction documents, you're going to be focusing a lot more on the actual identity of the material and all the information around the material. So if I click on identity, you can see we get a few categories that we can use to insert information about this material. So some of the useful things are things like the manufacturer. You can even use this to do cost estimates. So if you put like the cost per square foot, you can actually have Revit calculate where all the material is used through the project, and it'll use this cost value to tell you an estimate of how much the entire cost of the material is going to be up front. You guys aren't going to use that too much really during in school, but professional projects, they might actually use this cost value to do project estimates for bidding purposes, which is pretty sweet. Model, which is just like the product line. And then, there's other things like the class, which is like the type of material that it is. But it's pretty limited. There's not really a lot here to work with. Okay. What we're going to end up doing is actually adding in our own categories. So you can actually add in new categories here to use for scheduling purposes, because the ones that they have in here, they're not the best, and we want to make this a little bit simpler on ourselves. So we're going to create our own to actually use for scheduling purposes. Now, the other thing to note here is this mark value. So that mark value is this value we're using here. So CPT1, for example. So I used the actual mark value for the name of the material. Like I said, you wouldn't really be doing that with your own real materials. You'd be naming them what they are. But for simplicity's sake, I just use that mark value there. But this is where you want to enter that, and that's going to be important too. All right, so I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to add in just a few pieces of information for these. So we're on PT2 right now. So I'm going to call this one, I'm going to go to the manufacturer, and I'm going to say this is a Sherwin-Williams paint. Okay. Then I'm going to go down to the mark value. I'm going to call this PT2. All right. Then I'm going to go here to class, and we don't necessarily need to worry about that, but I'm just going to put it in here. So I'm going to set that to be paint. Okay. So then I'm going to click apply. Then I'm going to go over here to PT1, and I'm going to set this one to be Benjamin Moore. And we're going to set the mark to be PT1. And again, class is going to be paint. Okay. Then we'll find our CPT 1 and 2. We're going to call the manufacturer of this one Mannington Commercial. And the mark, again, CPT 1. And then the class, we're going to set this to be carpet. Then for CPT 2, let's see, let's do Mohawk as the manufacturer. And mark is CPT 2. Class is carpet. Then we're going to go to, we'll click apply. We'll find our LVTs. So LVT1, mark is LVT1. Manufacturer, we'll do Mannington Commercial. And then the class, so there's not going to be a good class for this one. So you can see how this is pretty limited. They don't have a lot built in here. So I'm just going to type luxury vinyl tile. Okay, so there's my luxury vinyl tile. Go to LVT2, and you can see luxury vinyl tile appears. So I'm going to set that there. Mark LVT2, and then manufacturer. I'm just going to do Mannington for this as well. Okay, so that looks good. So then we're going to do apply and then okay. So now we want to create a schedule based on our materials that are in the project, right? So the way to do that is to go down here to the left, and you can do it from here, or you can also do it from the view section. There is a schedules section here where you can create a schedule. So what we want is a material takeoff schedule. So material takeoff schedule basically looks at all the materials in the project, and it looks at which materials within the material editor that we were just in are actually applied to geometry within the project, okay? And it's not going to schedule a material unless it sees that it's actually applied to something within the project. So right now, none of the materials we made have been applied to anything, so they're not going to appear here, all right? Now I'm going to show you something else really quick. So I'm going to click on this to make a material takeoff, but we're going to need to modify things before we actually do this. So you can see when we start this, it's asking us for our category of materials that we want to schedule. So I'm just going to leave it as multi-category for now and click OK. And then this is where it's actually asking us for the different columns of information that we're going to be including into the schedule. So if you scroll down here a bit, you can see we have a few different categories. So anything that it has this material in front of it is going to actually be tied to that material editor, to those parameters that we just edited. So for example, things like manufacturer, if I were to include manufacturer, that would pull in all that information about Mannington and Mohawk and Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, all that. The mark is going to pull in PT1, PT2, CPT 1 and 2, and LVT 1 and 2. All right, and then we also have things like description and comments and all of that. So that's great, but there's also a bunch of other things that we're going to want to include in here that we just don't have access to in the available fields. So if I were again to flash back to my example, things like the product finish type. All right, so LVT or tile or concrete, carpet. Actually, we actually could pull in that stuff, but there's going to be a better way to do that. Things that are not included in here, so things like the finish color, for example. So we did not have that category available to us within the identity properties within the material editor. So if I wanted to indicate the color of a paint, for example, maybe it's Sherwin-Williams alabaster, right? There was no place for me to type in alabaster there in the material editor, which is really annoying. So we couldn't schedule that. Also things like the sheen of the paint. So let's say we want to use eggshell paint in some rooms, and in other rooms we want to use a glossy paint or a semi-gloss paint. That's actually very common for like trim. So for trim, for example, you would have like a glossier sheen, but then for your walls, you're going to have something that's more of a matte or an eggshell, right? So we're going to want to indicate that somehow, but with what's built into Revit by default, we can't do that. So we're going to have to customize things a little bit. So I'm going to back out of this, and the way that we customize the categories that we can schedule is through something called project parameters. So if I go to the Manage tab here, you can see here in the top left, we have this section that says Project Parameters. So if I click on that, it's going to open up this window here. And right now, there's not really anything in here except for this one that says Occupant. So I'm going to go and click on Add. And then I'm going to add in a few of my own custom parameters that I can use to schedule. So this is where we're going to type in the name of this. So let's say I want one for the paint sheen. So I'm going to call this one sheen. I'm going to go here to where it says type of parameter, and I want to make this a text parameter because I want to type in the name of the sheen, okay? So you have to set that to be text. Then for the grouping, I want to group this under materials and finishes, like that. And then lastly, the most important thing is to come over here on the right side under categories, and we have to find materials and check that and then click OK. So then it pops up with this thing asking us if we want to put in a default value here. We're going to leave that blank and then just click OK. And now we have this sheen option appearing right here. So I'm actually going to add in a couple more now. So we'll add another one, and we'll do one for color. And we'll set that to be a text. And we're going to group it under materials and finishes, and we are going to find materials again. Click OK, and then click OK. So there we have sheen, and then we have color. And then we're going to do a couple more. All right, so the next one we're going to do is product type. So we're going to go to add and product type. And that's going to be a text. We're going to group that under materials and finishes, and we're going to go to materials. Actually, we're going to rename this. So let me rename that to finish type. And then let's create a new one called product name. And then we'll go to materials again. This is going to be a text parameter, and we're going to group it under materials and finishes, just like that. Click OK, and then OK. Cool. So now we're going to create the actual schedule. So if I go back to view and then schedules, material takeoff, again, stick with multi-category. Now when I scroll down here, you can see I get a bunch more of these options. All right, all of those custom parameters that we created are appearing in this list now. So the way that we want to set this up is we want to bring in first the finish type. So we're going to click finish type, and then we're going to click on this button to move it over here into the schedule. Then we want to do our mark value. Then we're going to do category. So this is going to indicate the actual type of material. So we're going to do category. Then we're going to bring in the manufacturer, and then product name, and then we'll do color, and then we'll do sheen, and then we'll do comments. All right. Then we're going to mess with the actual formatting of the schedule. So I'm just going to leave this as is for right now and click OK, and we'll see what it looks like. It's probably not going to, yeah. So nothing is really in here right now. The reason for that is because none of these materials have actually been applied within the model, so they're not going to appear here, but also things aren't really formatted to appear correctly. So we're going to go back into our formatting here, and we're going to adjust this. So I'm going to go here to my filters category and make a couple changes. So for my filters, what I want to do is filter this so that we are only getting the materials we care about. So if we do not add in a filter, it's basically going to want to include in the schedule any material that's already built into Revit within the material editor, which we don't want. We only care about those 6 materials that we created. So we want to filter all the junk we don't want out. So what we need to do is set this to be material mark. Then we need to set this to is greater than and leave that blank. And that's going to filter out all the junk that we don't want. Then let's head over to the sorting and grouping tab. And this is going to help us sort all of the materials within the schedule in a way that makes sense. So the way that I'm going to show you how to do this is setting this first sort by to be sorted by the finish type. Okay, so for example, finish type would be like concrete or wood or carpet or LVT or paint. All right, then we're going to set this to be a header, and you'll see what that does here in a minute. Then we're going to set then by underneath of that. So this is the second way it's going to be sorting it within the finish type category. Set that to be mark. All right, and that should be fine. Then let's head over to the formatting tab, and we're going to go to where it says finish type, and we want to set this to be a hidden field. All right, so that's basically going to take finish type, and it's not going to appear as a column anymore. It's going to appear as an individual little header with sections under it. So you'll see what that does here in a minute. And then lastly, appearance. I want to set this to be striped rows, so that's a little bit easier to read. So just click on stripe rows and then click OK. All right, so after I've done that, now you can see everything disappeared, right? And the reason it did that is because we don't have any materials applied to anything within the project. So now we're going to actually go back into our floor plan, and we're going to start adding in flooring and paint finishes, and we're going to see that this will end up populating as we do that. So I'm going to pull this view off to the side so that we can actually see it updating as I do this. So let me see if it lets me snap that there. All right, so there's my schedule. So now let's go to my working plan. All right. There's my level 1 working plan. So now I don't have any actual flooring objects in here. So I need to add some in. And I'm going to take the color scheme that I applied off of this view because this is the working plan, so I don't need it. So we're going to take that off of there. And then I'm going to go in and add some flooring objects. So I'm going to go to architecture and then floor. And I'm just going to add in just some generic floors. All right. So I'm going to do a few, let's see. So we're going to do 5. No, we have 4 different flooring materials. So we'll do a flooring object here to the midpoint there. And then we're going to end that floor there. Then we'll do another one. And we're going to do that from this outside corner here to the middle of the walls right there. Then we'll do one more from this corner to that middle intersection there. And then we'll do one more and we'll do it from this outside corner over here, and we'll just do both of those rooms there since we only have 4 different flooring types. All right, so now we have 4 individual floor objects, right? And if I were to go to my 3D view to kind of get a better look at this, you can see there's my individual floors. So now I want to actually create different flooring types based on those 4 floor materials. So I'm going to click on one of these, and I'm going to edit type, and I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call this, let's see, CPT1. All right. Then I'm going to go to structure, edit, and right here where it says by category, I'm going to change this to be my CPT1 material. Now, watch when I do this. When I click OK, watch the schedule over here. So you can see it updated because it sensed that I applied that material somewhere in the project. All right. So now watch something else. And I forgot to show you this, but watch what's going to happen if I switch this one to also be that. If I go to set this to be CPT1 here, you can see it does 2 of them. So it's actually indicating every single instance of a CPT throughout the project. So that's something that we don't want. We don't need all these repeats here. So what we're going to do is go back to my schedule view, and we're going to edit the sorting and grouping here. So underneath the sorting and grouping, we're going to uncheck itemize every instance, and that's going to fix that problem. All right, so now I just have one instance of it in my schedule. So I'm going to change this now. And this one is now going to be CPT2. So we're going to duplicate that and call this one CPT2. Then we're going to go into structure and change this to be CPT2, like that. Now when I do that, you can see CPT2 is added to the schedule. Then we're going to do our LVTs. So click on that one, edit, and then we're going to call this one oops, we need to duplicate this. We're going to call this one LVT2 or 1. Edit LVT1. There we go, LVT1. Then we're going to go here and we're going to call this last one LVT2. Edit type, duplicate LVT2. Click OK. Oops, edit, and then LVT2. There we go. So there's all 4 of our carpet or our floor materials in there, just like we want. Okay, so now that we've done that, let me actually go back to my finished plan, and let's change these rooms to actually make sense to what I assigned. So we had LVT2 up here, so we're going to click on that room and set that to be LVT2, and we'll do the same thing to this one. LVT2. This one is going to be CPT1. This one's going to be CPT2. And then this one is going to be LVT1. There we go. So now that matches what I just assigned for my materials. So now I'm going to go back. It's my working plan. And we need to start organizing this a little bit better. Well, actually, I'm going to apply my paints. I forgot. So let's go to a 3D view here really quick. So we're going to apply our paints using the paint tool. So I'm just going to get a nice little bird's eye view, and let me lower the height of these walls so we can see into here a little bit better. So I'm going to change the height of these to be 10 feet. There we go. And then I'm going to adjust my view so that I can see colors. All right, so I'm going to set this to be consistent colors so I can see actually my paint colors. Now I'm going to go back to my materials editor. I'm going to find my paints. Do I not have a PT2? Oh, I do. PT, there we go. PT1, we're going to set the appearance really quick. So I'm just going to, let's see, we'll set this to a cream color. I don't know the actual RGB of the color I want, but there's one called Alabaster, which is kind of a creamy color, so we'll just do Alabaster. Oh, that's the Benjamin Moore. So this one, I'm just going to make something up. We'll make that like a red, and we'll just call it like Rose or something. I doubt that's a real Benjamin Moore color, so we'll just do that. So there is my Benjamin Moore paint color, and then we'll do that creamy Alabaster color for the Sherwin-Williams so that I can tell them apart. All right. So now that I have that, I can actually go with my paint tool. So we're going to go to modify, and we're going to go to the paint tool, and I'm going to find my PT1, and I'm going to apply that to a wall. And you can see when I apply it, it's appearing here. Actually, I need to set this to realistic to see that. I should be able to then see the paint color. If this ever loads. All right, there we go. So then let's do this wall here. So we'll go to paint and we're gonna do PT2 for this one. And we'll paint that wall with PT2. So now we can see our colors there. All right, and as you can see, the paints have been added to our schedule because I applied them within the model, which is cool. So then we can click on Done. And now we have everything that we want to schedule scheduled. So then you could obviously go in and then paint all the rest of these if you wanted to, but we just wanted to get these populated into our schedule here. So now what I'm going to do is tweak this a little bit. So I'm going to show you those custom parameters that we put in here. So if you remember, we added in those project parameters, and those let us add things like color and sheen and all kinds of stuff, but there's no information in here. So what we can do is actually go in here and we can type information in here directly within the schedule, or we could also do that within the material editor. So if I go back to the material editor, so manage materials, because we created project parameters, we get this extra button down here. So when you select a material and go down here to custom parameters, there are all the parameters that we created. So you can come in here and you can actually type in the information you want. So for this one, I'm going to call this eggshell for the sheen. For the color, I'll just call it rose. For the finish type, I'm going to call that paint. Put that in all caps. And then the product name, that's just going to be NA in this case, because for paints, we don't really, well, actually, no, I'm going to set that to be, I don't know, we'll go duration. So that could just be the type of paint that you're using. So like Sherwin-Williams, for example, they have duration, which is like one of their best paints. Then they also have another one called Emerald. So things like that would be product name. All right, so we'll just go with duration for this. Click OK. And then you can see it's going to, over here in our schedule, it's going to break that off because I gave that a... because I gave that a finish type, it breaks it off and groups it under paint down here. All right, so then I can also, I can work over here within the material browser, or I can actually do all of this within the schedule itself, either one. So I'm going to do this for PT2. So for product name, we're going to click on this button here, and then we can either put our own one in, or if there's another one, it'll appear here in this list. So you can see it says, do I want to make that duration or do I want to just type my own? So I'm going to type Emerald. Okay, so there's Emerald. And then material color, we're going to type Alabaster. The sheen, I'm going to put Semi-Gloss. And for comments, I'm just going to leave comments blank for this. All right. And then you can see, though, it's not being grouped down here under paint, though. And that's because since I set this to be a hidden category, the grouping thing, I'm not able to see that. So I'm going to hop back over to materials really quick. And I'm going to pull up that custom parameters section for PT2. Okay. And I'm going to set that to be paint. And it should appear in this drop-down list. So I'm going to click paint. Now you can see it groups it down here under paint, which is nice. Okay. Then I'm going to do the other ones. So let me pull up materials again. And we're going to go to our carpets. CPT 1. We're going to come down here and we're going to, for sheen, just put NA because that doesn't apply to carpets. For color, we're just going to call that whatever the name of the carpet is. I don't know. I'm just going to make something up. Ash. Sure. Finish type, that is going to be carpet. And then product name, just give it, that would be the name of whatever the product is. So like if we're like a modular tile or something. So let me see the example that I had pulled up here. So here's like an LVT, for example. So this one's called Access, and then the color is stone. Or for a carpet, this one is called Block, and like the color is Acquisition. All right, so we'll put that actually. We'll put Acquisition. And the product name was Block. Okay. And then that will break off over here onto the right into Carpet. All right, and then group that under there. So then for CPT2, we'll edit those. Sheen, NA will appear in the drop down. Color is going to be, we'll just say we'll do bonds. Finish type is going to be carpet, and the product name is going to be block. Okay, so there it groups it for us. Then we're going to do the LVTs. All right, so LVT1, sheen is going to be NA. Color, let's see what we got. Color is going to be stone, so we can do stone black or stone shale. So we'll call this one stone shale. The product name was Access. And the finish type is going to be luxury. Do all caps. Luxury vinyl tile. And then okay. And then for LVT2, sheen NA color is going to be stone black. Finish type is going to be luxury vinyl tile. Product name is going to be Access. All right, cool. So now everything is grouped the way that we want it to be within the schedule. And then we can come in here and actually add in some comments if we wanted to. So that would be under identity where it says comments. You could put those. So I could do that here, or I could do it over here. So if I wanted to, for example, say CPT1 is going to be a 24 by 24 modular tile with ashlar installation, something like that. All right, this could be like a, I don't know, let's say 4-inch by 42-inch plank, something like that. You know, any notes that are relevant to this that would help somebody know which product you're talking about, right? That's going to be dependent on the actual product that you're using. Let's not let me edit that. There we go. That would be dependent on the product that you're using. So obviously you need to know enough about that product to put in all this information. But that's a general idea, and that's kind of the general workflow for adding in all the information that you need. So if we go back to our sheet here, oops. A103. So there's our finish plans. So we have our flooring finishes and we have our floor finish plan. We can then go in and we can drag this over onto here if we want to. So before we do that, let's go ahead and rename this. So we'll just call this one finish schedule, like that. For these headers, we're going to rename these. So we'll go by, let's see, we'll just call this mark. And then we'll call this finish category. And then we'll get rid of this and just go manufacturer. We'll get rid of that product name. Get rid of that, just call it color. Get rid of this, just call it sheen, and then get rid of that and just call it comments. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Then we can just go in and we can find our schedule over here on the left side. So if you expand this where it says schedules, you can see finish schedule. And I can click on that and I can drag it over and drop it onto my sheet. All right, so you want to group that somewhere here over on the right side. And then you can go in and you can edit things like text sizes to make them look a little bit better. So if I were to click back over here on my schedule and go to my appearance, I could adjust my text. So I can make this bigger. So if I wanted the title to be like a 1/4 inch, I set that to 1/4 inch Arial. And you can see that makes it now the same size as the title for my finishes legend here. And then I can go in and use my detail lines and I can just get these like lined up. So I'm just gonna nudge that so it hits that detail line, and then I'll nudge this to the right so it hits it as well. Okay, so that's pretty good. Oops. Then I'm going to just grab this, and I could even edit the justification of the title to make it over to the left. So if I click on that there, and then I go to my horizontal alignment and set that to be left, now you can see my text is in line for my titles. And then I can just move those up so that they're a little bit closer to each other. So there you go. So it's really not that difficult to make a nice looking schedule. And then this just groups it nicely. And you can even play around with the sizing of these different categories if you want to. So if I wanted to try to fit Mannington Commercial all in one line, I could do that. But yeah, you can just go through and you can kind of play around with these and customize them the way you want, or even the finish, not the finish, the striping color. So if I go here to the stripe color and I change that to be something a little bit darker, it's going to make it a little bit more intense so I can see that a little bit better. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Right? Something like that. So it makes it a lot easier to read. All right, but that looks pretty good. Actually, I might want to click on my flooring finishes too and just make the font for those a little bit smaller. So if you click on that and then edit type, you can change the text size for the regular text, and we can lower that down to like, let's see, 3/16. Let's do 3/32 of an inch. That's a little bit too small. Let's try 1/8 of an inch. There we go. So now the text size is consistent between the two of those. Just like that. Perfect. All right, the last thing I want to show you is door schedules and door legends. All right, so door schedules are going to be a little bit simpler. Let me close out of this. Hopefully. So I have 4 doors in here, and let me change one of them. Actually, let's add in like an exterior door. So if I go to architecture and then go in here, we go to door, and let's load in an exterior door. Sure, go with that. Let's just do a let's do 36 by 84. Load that in. And then we'll place one of those right there. All right, so I have 1 exterior door and I have 4 interior doors, and those are all the same. So now I want to schedule those and tell somebody what kind of doors I have in here. And also I have, or if we had windows, we could also do the exact same thing with the window schedule, but I'm just going to show you it with a door schedule. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to be on my construction plan, and I want to add in tags to all these doors. So we're going to go to annotate, and then we're going to go tag by category. Or no, we're going to go to tag all, and we're going to go door tags, and then click apply, and that's going to put a door tag on all these doors. And then I want to actually hide my flooring lines. So if I click on those and whoops, let's click on those, and we'll just hide all the floors for now. So right click and then hide in view elements. I don't know why it's not letting me hide the category. That'd be a lot easier. We'll just select all instances. No, that's not going to do it. All right, let's undo that. Let's go and click on line types here, and then set the category to be invisible. And then if we click on these lines twice, they'll go away. So let's do that to all those, like that. All right, cool. And then I'll do that to this here, 2 on the edge. So again, line type, invisible, just like that. All right, so I have my door tags inserted so that I can see the numbers of all of these, right? And what I want to do now is actually create my schedule. So if I go up to manage, or view, and then schedules, and we go to schedule quantities, I want to find doors. All right, create a door schedule, click OK. And then I want to add in my individual fields here. So we can do things like width, and then height, and manufacturer, and we could do the count, the number of them. Actually, no, let's not do count. Let's do frame type. Let's go mark. And type. All right, let's take a look at the example one also really quick to make sure I'm getting everything. So in here we have a door schedule. Okay. So there's our door schedule. So we're doing door types, family, width, height, thickness. I'm not worried about operation really. Door material, door finish, frame material, frame finish, hardware. All right, so let's see. Frame material. Let's go family. Let's move type to the top. Let's move manufacturer up. Frame type, frame material. Let's move mark to the top. And then let's just go, actually let's remove that. Let's set that to be type mark instead. All right, let's go with that and see what that looks like. So now if you look at my schedule, you can see I have the type mark first. So let's go back to our floor plan and let's see if we can figure out what type mark means. So if I click on one of these doors and come over here, you can see I have a mark right here under identity data. If I go to edit type, I have a type mark that is set to 8. All right, so that's just indicating the type of door based on a value there. All right, so that one is 8. And if I go here, this one is 1. All right, so all of these ones that are 1 are going to be the interior doors, and all the ones that are 8 are going to be the exterior. So I can change that to be whatever I want. So I could have type 2 be exterior, so we'll set that to type 2. All right. And then let's go back to my door schedule. So that's set to type 2. And if you wanted to, you could have it like how I'm currently showing it, where it's itemizing every instance. So you're seeing every single one that's shown. Right, so we're seeing all 4 of those interior doors, and then we're just seeing 1 exterior door. So you could have it like this, and then something else that we're gonna want is also the number. So let's see if we can add that as well. So we'll go to fields, and that's probably gonna be the mark. So let's add in mark, and we'll put mark right after type mark. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so that mark value is tied to the actual door tag, which is perfect. So if I wanted to like customize all of the finishes and stuff on all of these different doors individually, I can. So I can come back in here and I can change my frame type now, and I can type in a value here. So if I wanted this to be like metal, actually we'll do wood for all the interiors. And then for this one, I could do steel or metal. And then you could change this to be like the frame finish. So you could say like painted. Right? Or you could just leave this as like NA or wood, or, you know, some of these could be painted as well. So this is a wood frame that's painted. So I'll just do painted for all of these. All right. And then I'm actually going to get rid of type mark. I don't think I need that. So let's take type mark back out of there. We could even customize these probably so that they're grouped based on the door type like I did with the materials. So we could have like wood doors or interior doors and then exterior doors so that it all be grouped like the material takeoff. Or we could just leave it like this. So door schedule, I'm going to align that to the left. And I think that looks pretty good. Wait for... Yeah, we don't even necessarily need this type in here. We could actually just get rid of that as well. And then we can call where it says family, we can just call that panel type. Something along those lines. Manufacturer. Let's do, for the exterior, we'll call that gelled when. And then for these interior ones, we'll call these true style. All right, cool. And that looks pretty good to me. So just for a basic door schedule. Now, like I said, you could also set this to not be itemized. So if you wanted to take this and undo itemize, that would collapse all of these. Actually, no, that kind of breaks it for the way we have set up. So let's not do that. We'll just leave it like this for now. That'll be good. And then if we go to see how we set it up here. So we had this put on a schedule sheet. All right, so I'm going to make a new sheet really quick here. And right-click new sheet. We're going to call this, we're going to click on our title block. We're going to call this one schedules A601 or door schedules. And we'll call this A601. All right, and then I'm going to drop my door schedule onto here. Like that. And then we need to add in the actual door plans and elevations, but that is super easy to do. So if you look here, we have our plans and elevations for all of our different types. All right, so we have type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. And actually, let me add those back in here to this so it's a little bit clearer. And this will be the last thing we do for this video. I know this is running kind of long. Go back to fields. We'll go back to type. We're going to add in the, or type mark. We're going to add type mark back in here, and we're going to put that underneath mark so that we get the 1s and the 2s back like that. Then we're going to go back to our A601, and we're going to add in a legend here. So a legend, if you go to views and you go to legends and then add legend, this is basically like a blank canvas where you can drop in representations of those families. So I'm just going to call this one door types. All right, we'll set it to a scale of 1/4 inch and click OK, and that's going to take us to this blank view. Now what you have to do is go over here to the left, go to where it says families, expand this, then we want to find doors. Okay, then we want to expand this, and so here's our 2 door types. We have our exterior glass door We have our interior single flush. So we can expand these now to get our types. So 30 by 84. If I click on this and drag this, I can drag it into my view and plop it. And it's going to plop in a 2D representation or a floor plan view of that door. All right. Then I can do the same thing, 30 by 84 for my single flush. And we'll see if I can flip that. Or not. I'm not sure why it's not letting me flip that. Nope. All right, we'll just leave it like that. That's fine. So you can see there's the plan representations of these. Then I can copy these down. And I can set these to be the elevations. So if I go to where it says view direction, set that to elevation front, click apply. Look at that. Elevation front, just like that. Then let's look at our reference. We need to add in text to indicate that this is the door legend, and then we have to add in text to say what type of door this is. So we're going to have the floor plan view, front elevation, and then type 1, and then type 2. So we'll move these over because all these are going to be type 1. Then we're just going to go to, let's see here, annotate. See if I can tag these. Nope. All right, we're going to go to annotate and then text. We're going to just add in some text here. We're going to call this floor plan view. All right, and we're going to change our font size to be way smaller. So I have those set to be a 1/2 inch. So let me change my view scale to a 1/2 inch, like that. And we'll set our text height to be, let's duplicate this and let's go 1/8 of an inch. And we'll set that to 1/8 inch. Like that. Perfect. Copy that. Copy that down. Call this front elevation. Front elevation. We'll move this over to the side a little bit. And then we can go in here and add in some dimensions if we want to. So let's dimension the door size and then the height of the actual frame. And then we'll do the same thing here as well. Like that. Perfect. And then I think that's pretty good. We could even do the tops if we wanted to. So if we wanted to show the width on that elevation view, we could add in another align dimension right here. Just like that. And then we're going to copy these down one more time. And we'll call this type 1. And then type 2. All right. And then we'll just center these up under the doors like that. Okay, and there's our door types door types legend. So now that we've made that, if we switch back to our A601 door schedule, and we then go to our legends right here, door types, I can drag that in and I can drop that like so. And I could edit my viewport and go no title. And then I could double click to come in here, add a little bit more text. So we'll go to annotate and then text. And then we're going to call this, let's see what I called it in here. Door type legend. Okay. I'm going to set my, in my schedule, and I'm going to set my title text to be 1/4 inch like that. So that those are consistent, and then we can just have that, oops, on the sheet somewhere. There we go. Cool. So that's all there really is to creating door schedules and these door legends. All right. So pretty long video, but that's going to do it for this video. So make sure you get to the same point that I did here, because you're going to be submitting everything that we covered here. So basically what we have is our floor finish plan with our different hatches applied, using the room tool. Okay. Then we have the floor finish legend. And then we have our actual sheet where we're showing that on A103. So our finish schedule and our finish legend and our finish plan. And then under schedules is our actual finish schedule, and then our door schedule. And then we have a 601, which is showing our door types legend and our door schedule.